Algebra 1 teacher. This is just about the Math 7 course, so if your child is in Algebra 1, you can skip until I start talking about Algebra 1. So for Math 7, the mathematics curriculum is correlated to the Common Core standards. I've highlighted and bolded the main things we're going to be going over this year, though. Proportional relationships, rational numbers, algebra, geometry, probability, with a huge emphasis on problem solving. The main goal of going over all these things is to make sure that they're ready for Math 8 and that they're ready for the 7th grade PSSAs. Now this one is on Algebra 1, so if your child is in Math 7, you can go ahead and skip this part until I start talking back about everything else that both classes talk about. So for Algebra 1, we will be evaluating mathematical expressions, equations, and graphs using real numbers. And then I bolded and highlighted all the other stuff we talk about. It's a very long list. A big thing about Algebra 1 is we do need to cover a lot of information, so we do move fast. I would usually expect a test or quiz either every week or every other week. Again, just a lot of information to make sure that they're ready for that Keystone exam. The Keystones usually are by mid or end of May. If they pass the Keystones this year, they will not need to take them again next year or in the high school. Fortunately, if they do fail, though, they do need to retake Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Just some information about the class. Our iPad will be used every single day. Thankfully, with last year, I've gone completely paperless. Every so often, I do decide, like, all right, this is a good thing to have on paper. Usually if there's some kind of interactive piece with it. But usually, all of our notes are on the iPad. I recommend buying a stylus. You don't need to get one that's super fancy. I'm not looking at a $100 stylus here. On the Schoology pages, I've provided 3 links to 3 different styluses that work really well. Your child should know how to access those links. In my classroom, I do have 5 that I bought myself that the students are allowed to check out for the period. However, if 6 people don't have them, then there's going to be one kid who's writing with his finger that day. For later assignments, if you see a 0 in Power School, most likely that means they did not turn in that assignment. There will be times where something is great and they get a 0. That happened in the past. Usually I'll let the student then retry it. There shouldn't ever be a 0 in Power School. For tests and quizzes, I like to give a point for every single step. So it is extremely important that your child is showing me all of their work. It's not so much to me of can they get the answer, but do they know how to show how to get the answer. So a student can have -1 as an answer and another student have -1, but they could receive different points depending on if one showed work or not. Delta Math is a website I use very frequently. Students already have an assignment that's due tomorrow for Delta Math, so make sure that they're getting that completed. Nice thing about Delta Math is that I can sign in for them, so if they're having issues, I can sign in and work through the problems with them. There's also a show me an example, so if they don't know how to do something, they can just click on that and it talks through how to complete the problem. Students will not be assigned things that we have not gone over in class. I think it's rather unfair for these students to have to try to work through something that we haven't personally talked about together. There will be times that I might give them something and say, hey, just try this out, let's see what happens, but they will not be graded on if that's correct or not. I just want them to try it, see if they can make some kind of connections, but I wouldn't be giving a right or wrong grade on that. It would just be based on completion. Now, there are many times that they can come and talk to me during a resource. They can always come and ask me for questions, especially with those Delta Math assignments. That's the perfect time to come and ask me for help. I like to give examples in the notes, so if I know that there's a particularly hard problem, I'll just go over it together as a class. I think it would be much more beneficial to have a conversation about it than them just trying it on their own. Then, of course, I already mentioned this, but Delta Math does have a show an example. So if they forget, if they didn't write it down in their notes, there's that option for them as well. Wearing a mask. It is super important that these students are wearing a mask so we can stay in school. If we want to stay 5 days a week and not go back to that hybrid schedule, they need to be wearing their mask and wearing it correctly. I see a lot of students putting it underneath their nose. I will just politely ask them to cover their nose. However, if I ask them 3 times in a period to put their mask on correctly, I will be giving a lunch detention. And if it continues, and they've been getting multiple lunch detentions, then it will result in a write-up, and then we can go even further from there. So please make sure that you're encouraging your child to wear their mask, wearing it correctly, so that we can do our part. Here's my contact information if you ever want to send me an email, christmanm1 at carlisleschools.org. You can also message me on Schoology. It just gets sent right to my email, so I'll answer back pretty fast. I also have a class Instagram page where I like to take a picture of the homework board. I usually put like a silly little math meme as well. That's at Mr. Christman Math. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. Thanks.